So we have been looking at, in the last couple of talks, in the sequence involved in lifting consciousness to its point of maximum awareness. The first step we discovered was beginning to identify with our divine unlimited selves. And from this free, evolved vantage point, beginning to use the unlimited mind of God as our reference point, of spirit, the great I am, and its great body of divine thought patterns. Elevating our consciousness, striving to perceive and to know what God or the life force knows about this universe and about us, and to think what God or the life force thinks about us, its creations. Thinking in terms of harmony, courageousness, goodness, completeness, the havingness of it all, and the fundamental rightness of all being. So far we've been looking at this process of how to, make that chiropractic shift in mind where we empower our lives by seeing everything in our life as good. I know that all of you understand something of this principle, but it is the key force that begins to revolutionize our lives and our experience when we can sweep up all in our minds and the way we receive an experience as the essence of good, somewhere within it. Now, when we're thinking that way, we are at a point of power. We have an open mind. We're open at the top, as I've heard say very often, stay open at the top to receive of a new idea about a situation. So we link up first with God, then we begin to think in terms of noticing how the universe is around us. When we look at this universe around us, we see that it must be good. It is so filled with life, so filled with order and peace and beauty and abundance. You can see and feel it everywhere. So we bring our minds to the conscious recognition of the essential nature of this universe, and we bring it into definite claiming for ourselves in our lives as an integral part of the great universe that we live in. So once we have evolved our minds through vigilance and through conscious practice to join with the one mind of infinite and unencumbered possibility, no longer relating to that limited experience or self or whatever, but to the great mind which we may use and which every genius uses, like every artist uses. Michael used that mind to write his poem. Einstein used that great mind to receive of the truths that were present in that mind. So all great minds on some level have stretched out to include, to listen to this greater mind of the universe in which all information, all knowing, every answer is already contained and already present. What a vast resource we have. So we stop, limiting ourselves to checking it out with just our friends and checking it out with, something that we went through 5 years ago. We stand in the now saying, you tell me, greater mind, you tell me what it is, what I need to know. You lead me, you guide me. So once we have evolved our minds to join with the infinite one mind of unencumbered possibilities, we are truly standing at a point of all power. And we are standing and viewing from the highest vantage point of conscious awareness. We are ready to expand our horizons of mind, to reach out into the cosmic grandeur, to create with the mind of God the greater possibility for ourselves, to encompass and embrace with our conscious acceptance heretofore unknown territories of good. You know, I've heard it very often mentioned, that there is a nothingness. There is a certain nothingness out there, a nothingness, a void, that great unknown with which it is implied, since it is so unknown, we must contend with it, or possibly we may be victimized by its possibly chaotic nature. So we've got to prepare to do battle with the great unknown, and we have been raised to fear the great unknown, to step forward for possibly it may be something that we don't like, or that we may suffer at the hands of. And the more, so thinking that way, people get stuck. They're afraid to venture forward, because on the inner level, all these ideas that have been instilled, as you've been growing up, from the fearful people, let's say, around you, it gets instilled in your mind. And so it works there in the subconscious and prevents us from moving forward in a sense of adventure and glee and high trust that the universe shall sustain us. So the more I rise in my consciousness in these metaphysical teachings of the true divine essence and substance of life, I see that there is always and ever not the unreliable nothingness, the fearful void, the dark nights of the soul. We've all experienced those feelings, right? Yet there is ever the rich everythingness of the universe at our disposal. My teacher told me once, and it just struck me through, just went through me like a shot of lightning. He said, you are always, recognize that you are always at the point of all creative power. So what you set your mind on can be powered and backed up by the entire universe. We are never helpless. We are never in the nothingness. We are in the everythingness in which we live and move and have our being, and which we use. That fine white stuff of brilliant, creative, unlimited dynamics is always at our disposal for higher molding. And it is also impossible from us to be separated from this creative substance which we are one with, and which we use within ourselves to bring out any new idea. So the infinite is always providing us with expanded forms of good for us. That substance out there becomes, or in there, out there, everywhere, becomes expanded forms of good for us by means of the patterns of our expectations and expanded thought. In the Bible they have references to the Vestal virgins with the lamps lit with oil, preparing the vessel. All of this is referring to consciousness. The consciousness that expects good is going to receive that. So as spiritual being, we want to be in that sacred place always, that point of all protection. When we are in that sacred place, regardless of whatever is going on around us, the truth of our being, the light of our being, the light of our expectations shall eventually, if we stay with them, take form, and we shall be victorious. So there never really is a void. There is always such life, invisible life, at our disposal. And so when you want to make a change in life, know that all creative invisible potential is right at your command. And this potential, the inherent nature of it, is good and fulfillment. So, cosmically directing the invisible stuff in conscious directions of good shall always bring to us greater terrains of good made manifest in our lives. For it is its nature. Good is what life is all about, and what the life force perpetuating itself through us, by means of us, wants to create. So it is our choice what that future is holding for us. And never, not ever, are we subject to negativity, save by our own fears. And as we all know, fear is as creative as faith. So in line with the truth of being, every time you stand at the threshold of infinite possibility, at the dawn of a new idea, approaching the great unknown, affirm it good and great, and you will be using your powers of the great I am, the great spirit that you are, the fine white stuff of the universe, in the way it likes to be used, for greatness, fulfillment, overcoming, never-ending outpourings of manifest good. So right now, say that you accept no fears, no hearsay that there is something about this great life to be afraid of. Affirm the ever-presence of your good and your God and your being. Accept your authority as a child of the great I am, working always with the great I am. So can you see that we are not victims of so-called fickle fates? Yet, now, in this way, we become conscious participators in the divine patterns of creation and fulfillment. And we become a part of its glorious movement in, through, and by means of our lives. So, how do we expand our thoughts once we have connected to the infinite knower of infinite good within ourselves? The first is to be willing to receive from the great mind of being a new idea about an old situation or a new situation, so that we are not trying to repeat. For there is nothing in the universe that likes to repeat. So once we have consciously made ourselves open and receptive and willing to let go of all ideas of the past, and this is so important. You know, I found myself at this point many times. This thing of being willing to let go of concepts of the past. For one thing, they served us in the past. They did their perfect work. So how can they serve us now? We need a new concept. You know, there's a law of use in the universe that ideas come to be used, so use them when they come, and then move on. So, because the universe is rich and it's ever providing us with newness. So, letting go, whenever I found myself stuck, chances are I'm going to notice that I'm trying to repeat an idea. I'm trying to get a thing to take form in a familiar way to myself, or as I knew it once, rather than, you know, stepping out of the mind of expansion. So I encourage you, if you see yourself in that, to just say, okay, whatever. I'm brave enough, I'm willing enough to let all this go and just let a new idea, a new possibility come into my mind. And that makes life so much more exciting, doesn't it? Because we're really into the rhythm of the universe, and we're constantly expanding and growing. So it's very exciting to live that way, not into repeats. So once we have cleansed our minds, let's say we're working on something, of any preconceived notions of how it ought to be, how it ought to take place, what it ought to look like, then we go into the stillness. We go into the stillness within, and we ask our higher selves in quietness, our higher mind, for its greatest idea for us.